Hello, one and all, and welcome back, yes back, to the Great Unknown Audio Show with me, your illustrious host, and most appropriate face for radio, Maxim Jennings. And yes, we are back on the beach today, but first time in a while I'm wearing my raincoat as storm has struck in the most westerly point of Australia, Shark Bay, which is where I'm currently residing, and it's actually thunder and lightning in the air, or in the skies, should I say. Bit of an intense turnaround on the weather front, as for the last few days from my recordings I've either been in sweltering heat or in the middle of the outback. So yeah, bit of a nice for a change up. I probably wasn't prepared for this morning. Waking up in my gorgeous tent, and yeah, it's been a day and a half since I did the last recording of the trek. Yesterday I spent travelling, so we'll give you a little recap about what we saw, what we did, how everything went. Oh, that was lightning. Oh, bloody hell. This will be quite cool, I reckon, for my eyes at least. Not sure about your ears. But being right on the coast and seeing lightning in the sky, and well, it's grey and murky out here, which is a change. It's been beautifully blue in the skies for the last 5 days or so. I haven't seen a drop of rain, and then suddenly today storms have taken over this magical land. But anyway, back to yesterday. 4-hour trip from Kalbarri to a place called Denham, which is where I'm staying for 2 nights. From one caravan park to another, I have to say that I think the one in Kalbarri just had it was just a bit better. Facilities seemed to be a bit better. Signal was a bit better in the town. I'm really kind of on my own navigationally, as I can't seem to get any phone or data signal wherever I go. So I'm just following signs like they used to do in the olden days. I remember having to be in the car with my mum, taking me to various sporting events in my childhood, and having to read off instructions from Google Maps, as we didn't have mobile data back in those days. I'm not that old, but still of a time where navigation has drastically improved. But yeah, it feels like I should be printing off a set of instructions of which roads to go down from maps, and constantly looking at street names. But no, we're finding our own feet, which is nice, because sometimes you become very reliant on technology and phones. So in terms of being isolated, I am obviously by myself, but also having a lack of technology means it's just another layer of isolation. But yeah, anyway, once again I digress. The drive itself was about 4.5 hours, which I'd say is a pretty nice amount. I knew that I had to stop halfway because petrol stations come few and far in Western Australia, so we had to make a stop, and it was a great stop. It was an iconic stop. I tell you why, because we stopped in the town of Billabong. I fucking butchered it. Billabong. I mean, everyone knows the brand Billabong, but did they know that it came from a town in Western Australia? No. And did they know that the Billabong Roadhouse had some of the cheapest petrol in Western Australia? No. And I went in, I did my little pump up. It's just dirt cheap. It's under £1 per litre. It's just like what the UK used to be in COVID times. It's that cheap. And I was thinking, we're in the most remote part of a continent, and petrol is still cheaper than a place anywhere in the UK. It's crazy. It's fantastic. I really like it. Big highlight. But yeah, we stopped at Billabong Roadhouse, which is just got that old rusty feel to it, just kind of almost like the brand. The brand looks a bit worn out, but that kind of windswept, taken away by the sea feel you get with some of their clothing, some of their other items. It just felt like that. It had that old, reliable feel to it. Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's exactly what it was. So that was a really nice stop about 2.5 hours into my trip. I didn't get a coffee there. No, I got one before from a place that I'd been to in Kalbarri. Probably my favourite coffee stop so far. And a large cup of coffee is a proper large cup of coffee. So that was good. They asked how many sugars I want. You know, just the little details, they make all the difference. They called me mate when I came in. It's always nice to feel like the barista is your friend. So, yeah, very enjoyable. We arrived about 2 hours after stopping in Billabong. Pretty nice, easy drive. Was very podcast heavy today. Not too much sing-song shower time music. So it's always good to switch it up. But we arrived in good time at about 2:30 in a place called Denham, like I said, which is part of an overall peninsula called Shark Bay. And I know you're thinking, Shark Bay, bloody hell, that must be frightening. No sharks have been sighted yet, but we have our fingers crossed. I was looking on Google, they said there are like 28 different species of sharks, and there's also a dolphin feeding experience at a place called Monkey Maya. So we'll be doing that tomorrow morning. I've heard it's quite early, so we need to get up nice and early. Not that we really have any choice when sleeping in a tent. It's almost, the sun is very much the dictator on that front, as it gets hot very quickly, as all you campers know all too well. But overall, Denham seems like a pretty quiet town. My caravan park it's a bit of a shack, and it's almost just a big dirt track. But we make do with what we've got. Bit overpriced for me just to park up my tent, but it's always nice to hear a few friendly voices in the morning and evening. And they did have kitchen facilities. Last night I made the bold move of getting some frozen meats from the local Denham supermarket. Supermarket used in the mild term, just because it was more of a shop. But I didn't have any crockery or kitchen equipment, and that was not supplied at this camp kitchen, so we had to get out and get a frying pan and a plate. You would have thought, knowing I was going to do all that camping, that I probably would have prepared a bit better, but that was not to be. So we bought those. An excessive purchase, some would say, given the fact that I really had nothing that needed to be cooked, but I wanted to treat myself, so we went out and got some barbecue sausages. I'm not entirely sure if they were pork or beef, but after a good 25 minutes on the frying pan, they had that sausagey kind of look, and they were scrammed all too easily, accompanied by some broccoli that had kind of turned from that dark green colour you get on the top of the heads to a more orangey, fake tan colour. So it was nice to char them a bit in the remaining fat and oil after cooking the sausages. I have to say it was one of the heftiest dinners I've had in a while, as I did have a bag of microwave basmati rice alongside that. What a treat! What an absolute treat. And I was thinking, I hadn't really had lunch today, so if I was hungry after that, I could have had a tuna and sardine sandwich, but that would have been excessive. And I know that I was looking this up the other day because I thought this might be my case as a child. There is something like not a disease, but a condition where it's got a very particular name, where if you just continue eating when you're full, it's not good for you. So I was taking that into consideration and thinking about my health for a bit and thought, no, this is excessive. After you've had 8 sausages, a bag of rice and some broccoli and 2 pieces of toast, you don't need another sandwich. So we held off, and that's good because we have supplies for lunch today. I hope you can hear that absolutely magnificent thunder. It reminds me of being back in the UK, which I'm told, and through posts that I've seen sporadically on social media, that the Northern Lights were incredibly visible a few days ago. So it is completely, in true Maxim Jennings fashion, that one of the biggest spectacles and most awe-inspiring pieces of nature that never occurs in the UK occurs when I'm out of the country. But I guess we're not in too bad of an environment. And I was thinking, oh, maybe I might be able to see the Southern Lights, but no, that seems to be more of an occurrence in Tasmania. And I was looking at some photos of the Southern Lights when in Tasmania. They do look absolutely gorgeous, but not to be for me. Instead, we've had scorching sun, plenty of mosquito bites, and a number of flies try and ruin my day. We don't actually have the fly net on at the moment. I think the rain is deterring them. They seem to only come out in dry, hot conditions, so long may this rain continue. But before I wrap up this, what has been a pretty nothingness episode of me rambling, I have to take you back to something that I saw after I left you the last time, when I said that my plan for the evening on a Saturday night was to have a few drinky poos, which is what I did whilst editing, and then I went down to the beach to enjoy the sunset. And on that same beach they were holding what looked to be a wedding reception. And I thought, oh, I remember my time in India when I went to a wedding reception uninvited. Don't think I could do that in Australia, and wasn't really in the right attire. So I decided to head elsewhere and go to the tavern, which was absolutely rife with locals, which is great for people watching. Considering I'm on my own, it's always a fun pastime of mine. And I was positioned myself next to two blokes, two absolute characters who had clearly been friends for a very long time. And one of the guys was wearing a leather jacket with some skull rings and had just a beard that was almost pirate length, but grey, and was head shaven, next to his friend who looked a bit more cultured, with a baggy shirt and some shorts that you only really get away with wearing if you are an elderly gentleman. But they were nattering on and laughing to each other, and I was listening and overhearing their conversation when something else caught my eye, and I will leave you with this kind of thought about Australian couples in your head. This man and woman had clearly enjoyed themselves and having a good night. The husband turns around, almost looks at me, but then looks up at the tavern, very happy with himself, and looks back at his wife, and they go arm in arm. They start walking and he stops again, and he looks at her and she looks back, and she's smiling at him. And then as soon as he sees her smile, he burps. And he's so proud of himself. And I'm just sat there laughing. I'm absolutely loving it. And she gives him that, oh God, you do this every time. You think it's so funny. But it's disgusting. It's only something you would let your partner do. But I'll leave you with that remark, folks. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you very much for listening. And you'll hear from me in the next one. Goodbye.